Welcome back to the channel. Today it's gonna be one of those unscripted videos where I share my thoughts and opinion on the game of Wuthering Waves' story and basically analyze and tell you guys what I think about the 2.7 story patch, sharing my opinion and also criticizing and deep diving into things that we saw and will see in the story, and basically giving you guys a general idea about what I think and what they had done and what they could have done better in my humble opinion. So and without any further ado, let's begin. So a lot of things happened in 2.7. So and to tackle this issue or this subject from a better perspective, I think it's better to start at the very beginning. What happened right before this patch? Let's go into the three most important characters in the beginning of this patch, this chapter. So the first three characters who are the most important are Cartithia, Rover, and Galbarina. Once we have these three characters, once we realize where they were and what they have done, we can start to go into the story from there. First and foremost, Cartithia was in 2.4, I think it was 4 where we last saw her. She was corrupted, and she absorbed a bunch of Leviathan frequencies, which was threatening to destabilize her. And so she was sent by the Black Shores to Avinolium, so there she could basically balance out the frequencies between Leviathan and Imperator, because that's where Imperator last was. Now, regardless of all of this and how much sense it makes, because honestly, if we're talking about this, I don't think it makes much sense, considering at the same time Imperator was in Avinolium, flippin' Leviathan was also there, so it doesn't even make sense. And for Cartithia can't control which frequencies to absorb and which not to absorb, but I suppose she can sense them and she can tell which frequency is which, and so maybe she was deliberately using her forte in places where Imperator's frequency was the most concentrated, and thus was able to basically, how do I say this? Basically balance out the frequencies within her, or completely expunge the frequencies of Leviathan out of her body. That aside, she was just chilling there for the time being, resting, so that she doesn't get any more frequencies, whatever, inside of her. To be honest, she could have been anywhere at that point, because she just doesn't have to use her forte, and she's gonna be perfectly fine. But she's waiting in the tower. And then we have Rover, who had just finished saving Yuno. Yuno, he went into the chaos and learned about the concept of anchoring. Anchoring is an important concept, and that many people still don't understand to this day how it works. Basically, think of it as manifesting, right? Think of it this way. You see, there's a concept, right? And you're in a realm where concepts apply. For example, in the chaos, there's basically concepts of everything. Everything is a concept. There's no real logic. There is no real physics. There is no real whatever happens. So if you believe in something hard enough, if you take on the basically the role of that person or object you're manifesting, you can basically bring it into the world with you in that specific location, because the rules of physics don't apply, because imagination and reality, the line between them is blurred. That's what happened in the chaos, and that's how Rover was able to basically rescue Yuno and even take on her memories and her experiences in himself, because he manifested her on himself, or themselves, to be fair. I'm gonna refer to Rover as himself. I don't care if you get offended by that. I don't care really. It's herself or himself, it's them. There are two playable Rovers, both of them are canon, so it doesn't even matter. But my canon is my Rover is male, so I'm going to refer to him as he. To continue, I would say that Rover just saved Yuno, and he learned about anchoring. And so basically what happened is Yuno was he rewrote reality for Septimont. He changed the fate of Septimont and changed the world of Septimont, that it also allows the existence of Yuno in the real world after it was deleted before. So he just brought her back to Septimont after she was deleted and made her coexist in the universe where she had previously died 3 years ago, according to the world line. So he rewrote that and rewrote the ending and basically changed the reality of the situation by anchoring Yuno onto himself and then bringing her out of the chaos. He just did that, and now he is basically going back, and he also got in 2.6 first parts. He also got the civilization's anchor or civilization capsule. My bad, from the Earth Wedge, the Earthrend Wedge, and that civilization capsule. He didn't even know what it was. He tried to unlock it. He didn't understand. It doesn't matter. It's from Imperator directly, so he held on to it. And when he in the talk with Augusta, he also mentioned either Cartithia or the Black Shores. One of them is gonna know how to open this thing. So he was right in his guess because Cartithia was the key to opening the civilization capsule. Because it needed both Leviathan and Imperator frequencies. To continue. Last one is Galbrina, and this is where things start to get a bit blurry because we don't know what she was doing up to this point. However, we know that she came here and tried to find Cartithia, or tried to find the person with the highest concentration of Leviathan frequencies, and that was Cartithia. So when she met Cartithia, they talked, they hashed a plan, and that plan is still very complex, right? Until now. It's complex and it still requires a little bit more analysis. However, the basic concept of it, and I'm gonna tell you guys right now, the basic concept of their plan is to basically contain Leviathan in a mortal body. So basically, it can be wounded to strip it of its immortality, because if technically speaking, if Leviathan manifested in an immortal body, in a divine body, then basically it would be unkillable and there would be nothing to stop it. So what they did is Galbrina took and split Cartithia's divinity and humanity, aka her body and her soul, and basically sent her soul into the dark tide. Or rather, her body, not her body, her soul went to the dark tide, and her body was left basically completely hollow, with nothing in it except, well, life. So she sent the consciousness into the dark tide, and so Leviathan took that and thought that basically Cartithia was dead. So he could take her form, her immortal form, as a concept, because in the chaos and in the journey in paradise, both of these locations, imagination and reality, are convoluted. They're both mixed together, and basically, like I said before, through sheer belief and through sheer authority, through sheer willpower, you can manifest things in that existence. So Leviathan took on Cartithia's he thought it was Cartithia's immortal body, while it was actually her mortal form. So he was tricked into taking on a mortal form, and that was created a shell and its immortality and its made it become mortal. Now, as we established before, what happened after that? Now we know that Galbrina was met Cartithia and and that's how they hatched the plan, and then that's their plan. Next, let's talk about what happened at the beginning. So the rover thought that Cartithia was killed by Galbrina, though he started suspecting this. He started looking around and looked at Cartithia's sword, the shattered stained glass, the shell casing on the floor, all that kinds of good. So he started investigating the area, and it was like something doesn't add up, and it's strange that Cartithia didn't fight back, because honestly, let's be real, Cartithia would have slapped the evil living shit out of Galbrina. She would not have been able to kill her. Cartithia allowed herself to be quote-unquote killed to basically execute her plan. And after that, well, we went and met Avidius. Avidius right now, to clarify something from 2.6's part 2, he was hostile to us because we were anchoring Yuno in reality. because once Yuno was deleted, her role in the story, or AKA, and her role in the world was anchored onto Rover. It was like slapped on top of Rover, and people started thinking that Rover was the one who used the bow to drive back the dark tide. People started treating Rover as Yuno. So like he took on her actions, her roles, her ideas, and everything. It was like slapped on top of his concept, and that's what was made people think. So Avidius was being hostile to us because he thought we were Yuno, and Avidius and Yuno don't get together, don't get along at all. So it makes sense. But after that, after Yuno was brought back, her role was like Rover's like no longer anchored her, so the role was removed from him. And now Avidius sees us as the actual Rover rather than Yuno. Like he's not hostile towards us anymore, and that's why he's welcoming and stuff. So we ask him about Galbrena, and he recognizes the idea. He recognizes the person. He says like, you seek the one that they call the Discord Slayer, and he gives you like a brief synopsis. And we start suspecting that she might have something to do with the Discord outbreaks, which is a at that point it was like a valid concern to think about that. But after that, we went with him into basically a cassette field that is in a side, an alternate dimension basically, and it was for the Thundering Memphis or whatever it's called. So we entered, and Avidius was not able to make it in. We fight the Thundering Memphis and get help by given tips by Galberna, and that's where Rover starts suspecting that maybe she's not actually, things are not what they seem like. Maybe Galberna is not actually completely fucking evil, because maybe she didn't kill Cartithia. Maybe there's something more to this. And after that, we go with Avidius, and we go back to Averado Bank, because Avidius was delivering citizens from Laguna to Averado Bank to safety, and that's where Carlotta and Zanni were also performing their role in the story and protecting the civilians by stuffing them in the vaults. And that's where Galbrena shows up and basically reveals that some of the citizens are actually just Discords in disguise, tide spawns who actually evolved to try and basically trick other people into joining the Wandering Paradise, or rather the Journey in Paradise. And so, and then we see Fenrico show up for no goddamn reason, and it doesn't make sense to me why it would take the shape of Fenrico, though it kind of does, because there's intelligence behind them, and they know Fenrico was kind of in the dark tide at that point. He was trying to hold back the dark tide. He failed, so I'm guessing he was absorbed as well, and he just died. And I guess his form was then known through the hive mind and stuff like that. So that's why this Discord over here took over his form. And basically after that, we basically get to see that he is also at Discord, because Galberna uses that holy hand grenade of hers, and you know how it is. There's really nothing. So after here, we know also that they're after the civilization capsule, and this is something strange, right? Because the civilization capsule is supposed to have Raguna's history, right? And it has a message inside of it from Imperator to Rover. Why would why would Leviathan be after it? Like, it doesn't make sense. Why would it be after it? Why would these tide spawns be after it? Like, there is nothing there for him, for Leviathan or these Desert Discord. There's nothing here for them. So the fact that they were trying to get it doesn't really make sense to me. I mean, like, Leviathan already has part of Imperator's power, so even if there was like a little bit of Imperator's power left in the capsule, I mean, he still has the power to split. Leviathan took a bit of Imperator's power, and Imperator took a little bit of Leviathan's power, and that's how the and the civilization capsule requiring a bit of Leviathan's power is because it was supposed to be opened by Cartithia, who also has Leviathan's power. So this is the problem with like this chapter, right? Things are a bit too chaotic. Things don't make sense, and it's not explained like to the public that well. So we see that Rover gets into this portal, and Avidius goes in with him, and so does Galbrena, right? And they go into this portal where They're then taken to the civilization capsule place. Galbrina and Rover go in and stay for a while, and then basically Avidius is said to have been rejected. But really, he is the one who kind of unlocked it, in my opinion. I think because he's the one who was chosen to be the harbinger of the dark tide at that point. So by his power, or the power he didn't know he had, the power of Leviathan, he unlocked it by mistake, and so he should be inside there, because if it's Cartithia, right? If this thing was designed for Cartithia, then again, I guess Galbrina took his spot, because I'm thinking about this right now. Maybe Galbrina took his spot, and that's why he was kicked out and was not like allowed in for now. So it makes sense. To continue, we get the message from Imperator, who tells us how Leviathan came to be, and I think that's pretty clear. I don't need to go into this that well. And after that, we meet Galbrina, and wait, what? Hold on, give me a second. Oh, here it is. Yeah, okay. So Galbrina says, "I need you to accept this. Cartithia is dead, but she might yet still return," which we know that. For that to happen, we need to kill Leviathan. So the goal was always to kill Leviathan. Kill Leviathan, and this is the part where, like, it's weird. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't understand. It's not understandable. Kill Leviathan. Rover goes like, "Kill Leviathan." Didn't she absorb it when they merged? Like, who is he talking about here? Like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't think like Rover and this translation is not pretty accurate. I'm pretty sure it's like a translation issue or something, because who is he talking about here? But he's talking about Cartithia. She didn't absorb Leviathan. She absorbed some of his frequencies, some of them. Like, it wasn't like that in the entire Leviathan was like part of her or something. So who is he talking about here? And yeah, it is also, the I is is capitalized. So he's talking about Leviathan. It is Leviathan. So didn't she absorb it when they merged? So who merged with who? Unless he's talking about like, no, that doesn't make any sense. Like, even if you try to like rationalize this, it doesn't make sense. This has to be a mistranslation. This has to be something there. Because he's not talking about Mia, obviously not. Because Galbrina doesn't know of Mia. At least I think she doesn't know of Mia. Even if she did, it's not like he like just by referencing that she absorbed it. Like, she would immediately know. Because Mia didn't absorb it. Mia was fused with it. So like, there's something going on here. Again, that gem ended up in the Fractidus hands. Hold on. Now Leviathan is on the verge of rebirth, and then she goes, "It stole some of the Sentinel's power during your battle with the Blessed Maiden. It split off a trace of its frequency and hid it in a gem. I'm sure you've seen it." Yes. That gem ended up in the Fractidus' hand. Their whole play in Rinscita used it to bring back Leviathan. Yes, we know that. Perhaps longer than we can imagine. Even your clash with Cartithia may have been scripted, set up to give Leviathan a shot at slipping the Sentinel. That we already know. I already made this prediction. I already told you guys about it. Like, Cristoforo's plan was kicking in since 2.0. It was directing us towards Cartithia. Furova's entire thing in 2.0 was a show. She was not trying to actually drown the city or anything. It was just to give a show large enough for Cartithia to be impressed and to give Rover the Laureate, so he can actually talk to her and go up to the inverted tower later to free her. And that is part of Cristoforo's plan. Now, the plan is to kill Leviathan, and Imperator just told us that Leviathan can't be killed. So how do we kill Leviathan? By trapping him in a mortal body and then absorbing its power away from him. So now he's powerless, and just basically it would just be a mortal human. Because the body is based on Cartithia, who is mortal, and the power of Leviathan was stripped away from him because Galbrina would absorb the gem. So he doesn't have the power, he doesn't have an immortal body, He just has a mortal body. He's basically just a normal human we can kill. And that's what Rover exactly does. He stabs the living shit out of it and it dies. We keep going and we see that the Physalia curse was triggered early because of, well, Avedius. And Phoebe and the Acolytes have actually joined. We don't know when Phoebe came back to Raguna, which is funny. Because she stated to still be at Riccoli Islands during 2.4. Which is kind of interesting. But let's keep going. Avedius gets corrupted. And this is where the story starts getting really good. Basically, Avedius is probably, or at least from my understanding, this is what I understood from the plots. And you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. It's fine. I'm just giving my understanding here. If I'm wrong, I'm always open to corrections. You guys can leave your comments and everything in the comment section. Basically, just like the video, subscribe, and comment or whatever you want in the comment section to correct me if I'm wrong. But what I understood is that Avedius himself was actually Caligula or Caligula, and he was brought back in the future as a creation of Cristoforo, and he basically rewrote Caligula as a new being, as Avedius. And basically changed his memory so that he doesn't remember who he is, and gave him a new backstory, but still implanted the role of Caligula on top of him. So the Mad King Caligula is actually a real Roman emperor, which is really funny. And he's also Fate's character, which is also very funny for me as someone who plays both plays Grand Order and Wuthering Waves. So it was a nice whoa moments, because I just saw Caligula and was like, oh my god, it's the Mad King Caligula. So yeah, let's keep going. Avedius first wavers and gets turned into the Mad King Caligula Avedius. He turned into one of those false sovereigns, which honestly I feel like this was lazy on Koro's side, but I do get it. I really do. I think I'm not gonna lie, I think they're running low on budget, because even though the cutscenes and everything is so good, like everything else is kinda, there was only one boss in the final patch, really, like one new boss, and it's recycled. Like they gave it new moves and they made some changes, like a skin for Fleur de Lis, and it just said, ship it, and that's it. That's the final boss. And now we have like these new recycled bosses, like for example Scar, Aberrant Nightmare, was not even changed from 1.0. It didn't have any new moves or whatever. The Mad King Caligula is also not changed from 2.6. It's still the same. It's basically again, it's just it's the false sovereign again. So I think that could have been improved upon. They could have maybe added a few new things, maybe new bosses, new enemies. Could have given it a little bit more of, to make it more interesting. Now Avedius is just another one of those false sovereigns. It doesn't hit as hard. But yeah, okay. We fight him and he starts regaining his consciousness. He starts resisting, and he sees a vision of little Galberna, who fought back against the dark tide and basically used its power against itself, which is really cool. And he basically did the same thing, sacrificing himself and resisting the hands of fate. And it's a really cool concept, not gonna lie. Killing, he chose to sacrifice himself rather than actually bow down to the hands of fate. Such a sick moment, such a cool character, such a cool ending to a cool character. And honestly, earned Avedius a lot of respect on my end. So yeah. Once basically what happens is that Galberna absorbs his core, basically his being, I guess. Technically speaking, couldn't she have just, because he was turned into a TD, technically speaking. He was turned into a TD. They had a Tasset core and everything. So couldn't she have just absorbed him, and then he wouldn't have been corrupted at all? Couldn't she have just done that? She did absorb his Tasset core, so I don't know. Something interesting is going on there. So yeah. Once he is sacrificed, Cristoforo shows up, and that's where we start talking, and he just starts yapping about the previous the Harbingers of Dark Tide, and all that nonsense, which really, honestly, it doesn't really make much sense. He does make sense. It's just not important to talk about right now. He just says that basically there is another harbinger of the dark tide, and it wasn't Avidius. In that case, we just go back and start searching again. And after that, we go back to Cantarella, and it turns out the harbinger of the dark tide is actually Rover. Which is, wow, it's actually a cool, interesting idea, but really, I'm not sure what they tried to do with this, because it didn't come up again at all. Like, it didn't do anything. Like, that was the only time like Leviathan tried to use Rover as in like it tried to use like its set mark and stuff like that to conjure illusions and stuff. Other than that, like Leviathan just went quiet. Because, well, honestly, it's a stupid plan, because Rover can resist Leviathan. He is like one of the few people who can resist Leviathan, because he has sentinel frequencies within him. Because he resonated with Cartithia, who is a sentinel resonator, and flipping Zhu Wei and all that stuff. So like he can resist the Trinodian corruption, and you chose to make him your harbinger of the dark tide. That doesn't really do much for you, Leviathan. That was a bad move, I'm sorry. But we go back to Cantarella, and again, it's the same stuff. We talk about, like, we learn about that Rover was actually the harbinger of the dark tide, and nothing really interesting happens. She gives us, like, a potion that lets us suppress, you know, kind of suppress the dark tide corruption and stuff like that, so, yeah. We then go next to... Where do we go next? Hold on. Oh yeah, we just immediately ride to Septimon's, right? Yeah. We ride to Septimon's and we meet Yuno, and we find out that everybody's evacuating and preparing for battle and war and all that good stuff. So we meet Augusta and Yuno, and we go to fight on the front lines. We fight for a bit, but then eventually we are basically cornered and we need help. So what happens is they teleport in, right? They come in, and like we start all the resonators and people that we've met in before, like in 2.x, aside from, you know, Frolova, and they come in to help us, and that's a really cool moment. I really like the fact that everybody's fighting side by side and all that stuff. Yeah, it's really interesting, really cool. Galberna says that she's gonna jump into the dark journey in paradise, and that's a pretty cool moment as well, because she can actually resist the dark side's corruption, and she just drank the potion and stuff. So yeah, that's cool. See you in hell and all that stuff. And we start fighting against the dark tide and the TDs to stop them. We also see that Francesco and the fucking Black Shores, the Black Shores also showed up. And that's really cool. That's a really cool, interesting thing that happened, because finally they're doing something, actually being active in the story. Amazing. And after that, we fight together for a while. Shi Yuan shows up for the first time, delivering the Genesis light or whatever. What is it called? The Genesis lantern or whatever. It's something like that. Basically, the lantern of Fenrico, the first lantern that was given to Napoli by the Sentinel, and that was used to like repel the dark tide, and that's all. So everyone starts volunteering, saying that they should go into the dark tide to like help Galberna, and saying that they should use the lantern themselves. But Rover volunteers himself to go.